So this video lecture is for biotechnology fifth semester, and the name of the topic that I will try to discuss today is your direct or vectorless method of gene transfer. Now, this has been given in your recombinant DNA technology syllabus. So let's get started. So the direct or vectorless mediated gene transfer. The term vectorless transfer of DNA simply means when the foreign DNA is directly introduced into the genome of animals or plants. Now, as I have taken this part from plant biotechnology chapter, that's why it has written plant genome, but I will try, as it is given on a recombinant DNA technology syllabus, so you have to write both plant as well as in case of animals also. So direct or vectorless mediated gene transfer simply means we are not using any vector, we are not using any plasmids or any other carrier molecules. We are introducing our desired DNA into the genome, into the host cell's genome. Now that host cell genome may be a plant, maybe a animal. Direct DNA transfer method depends on delivery of naked DNA into the plant cells or animal cells. So the direct DNA transfer method fully depend on how we are delivering. We are transferring our naked DNA. Means simply we have the DNA only. No um, things are there. Okay, the selection process can be carried out if we have that, including our naked DNA, if we have selectable marker genes or promoters for proper expression of that DNA into the host cells. This is in contrast to the agrobacteria mediated gene transfer or vector mediated gene transfer, which may be regarded as indirect methods. So the agrobacterium mediated gene transfer or any other vector mediated gene transfer, it is a indirect method through which we are introducing our DNA into the plant cells, into the animal cells, right? Well, animal cells cannot be transformed by using agrobacterium. They have to be transformed by using by construction of other vectors, like we can use yeast artificial chromosomes. Okay, we can use mammalian artificial chromosomes, bacterial artificial chromosomes. Okay, or we can use bacteriophage as a vector for proper transformation of your animal cells, right? But direct method of gene transfer is applicable to all the plant cells and animal cells as well. Okay, now how it can be achieved, we will see them. Majority of the direct DNA transfer methods are simple and effective. So they are not complicated one, but obviously to modify the technique to improve the efficiency of this technique, we make some modification, we add some chemicals at proper concentration, right? For making our DNA transfer well, okay. And in fact, several transgenic plants and animals can be developed by this approach. Most of the small scale biotech companies are dependent on this type of direct method of gene transfer for making transgenic plants, for making transgenic animals. Now obviously, before it has been written that there are some limitations of direct DNA transfer. Major disadvantage of direct gene transfer is the frequency of the transgene rearrangement is high, because we are not controlling the number of genes to be transferred into the genome of animal or plant. If too much of if too much of our desired DNA going to be introduced into the host plant cell or host animal cell genome, then what will happen? Too much of expression will be avoided by that host cell's genome, and thus there will be silencing of that genes. So it is saying that the main disadvantage of your direct gene transfer is that frequency of transgene rearrangement is high. So as you are introducing more copy of your desired DNA into the host plant cell's genome or into the host animal cell's genome, due to the high introduction of your transgene, the foreign gene, into the host cell, transgene rearrangement can occur, and the frequency of the transgene rearrangement will be high. They have homologous sequence, they will have their rearrangements, and thus it is bad for us. Second thing, as too much of introduction of transgene makes the host cell to do the gene silencing. That means they will not allow the expression of that particular gene. That's another drawback. So there will be a high transgene copy number and there will be a high frequency of gene silencing where the expression of the genes are being silenced, that means inactivated. Okay, now gene silencing can be done by many ways. Okay, many ways, there are process are there through which gene silencing is done. Okay, now we are main focusing on your direct gene transfer. So if someone says that what are the limitations of the direct gene transfer, you have to say increase in the frequency of transgene rearrangement. Okay, and the second thing, you will say that as there is a high copy number introduction of our DNA, because there is no control of direct DNA transfer. So there is a possibility of what, there is a possibility of gene silencing. Now we will describe about gene silencing if it is given in your syllabus, or I will say in a different lecture. Okay, now let us see type of direct DNA transfer. Well, direct DNA transfer can be done by physically or by using some chemicals. So the direct DNA transfer can be broadly divided into three categories. One is called physical gene transfer methods. The physical gene transfer methods, one method you know very well when we were doing the protoplast fusion, which is your electroporation. Electroporation is the most preferable method. Particle bombardment, this method is also called as biolistic method. Biolistics method. Okay, particle bombardment is also a method where directly we are transferring our DNA into the target plant cell or animal cells genome. Next is micro injection liposome fusion. We have to, in liposome fusion, we coat our desirable DNA. Suppose for example, if this is your desirable DNA, suppose if this is your desirable DNA, they are coated with lipid vesicles. They are coated with artificially created lipid vesicles. Okay, okay, and thus they are then allowed to be transferred to the host cell genome as a result of phagocytosis. So they have some receptors on their surface which has been introduced in the liposome, in the lipid membrane, and allow that to interact with the target cells. They interact with the receptor, they interact with the ligand. Okay, uh, sorry to say, that means I mean to say that like specific ligands are introduced into these lipid vesicles, right, on the membranes of the lipid vesicles, which will allow interaction with the target plant cell or animal cell receptor, and thus they will interact, and through the process of phagocytosis this DNA can be delivered into the target cells. Okay, Next is silicon carbide fibers. These are also a method of interest where mechanically we use silicon fiber strips for directly introduction of our DNA into the plants, into the plant cells or animal cells. There is also chemical gene transfer methods, like the most popularly used that we have also seen in plant biotechnology is your polyethylene glycol mediated gene transfer, diethyl aminoethyl dextran mediated gene transfer, which is also called as DEAE mediated gene transfer, calcium phosphate precipitation. Now this is also a good method for introduction of our desired DNA into the plant cells as well as in case of animal cells also. Okay, so different methods are there through which we can directly introduce our desirable DNA into the host cells, whether the host cells will be a plant or animal. Here a little bit has been shown that how plant cells can be transformed by this approach. Okay, through tissue culture we take explant from the plant, okay, like leaf, embryo, meristem, we prepare callus, egg cells or protoplast. Then during the that time we introduce our desirable DNA. We introduce our desirable DNA either through physical method or chemical method. We introduce our desirable DNA into the explant, and thus we transform that cell or tissue. We transform that cell or tissue by introducing our DNA either with physical method or with chemical method. Now that transformed cell or tissue will grow into shoot, will either depending on what type of tissue culture we are doing, we are growing into callus. Normally we grow into callus, or if we are involving in somatic embryogenesis, we develop them into embryo, or shoot induction is done. Now this callus will eventually degenerate into shoots by changing the composition of our nutrient medium where the plant cell is growing. During this process, selection and regeneration is also being done to check that which of the callus tissues or which of the plant tissues has been transformed with our desirable DNA. Okay, for that selection medium is used. Obviously selection medium is used, and the DNA which is being introduced into the plant cells here must contain some selectable marker genes for proper selection of the cells which has been transformed with this DNA. Okay, so we get the transformed cell lines, the transformed plants. Further screening is again done to check the phenotype of the transformed plants, that whether the gene is getting going to be expressed or not, whether our desirable phenotype is going to be observed on that plants or not. That is the screening strategy. And thus these transformed plants are again tested for transgenic plants. We generate seeds from that transgenic plants through pollination, obviously self pollination, and then transformed plants are again screened for the next generation. In this way we try to maintain that transgenic trait throughout the generation, and we maintain the plants progeny. Okay, for observing that to maintain that trait which we want to introduce by introduction of the gene into the plants. Now such type of screening and selection is also done if we want to create transgenic animals also. But the selection of the transgenic animals is not a common thing, because we know that in case of transgenic animal production we cannot all the cells cannot regenerate into plant. All the cells of the animals cannot have the ability to regenerate into a whole animal, because the cells of animals are having pluripotent in nature or multipotent in nature. Well, totipotent animal cells can only be observed in the embryo, where the embryo can be used as a target animal cell for introduction of our desirable gene. So most of the case when we create transgenic mice or when we create transgenic cattle, okay, or any other transgenic animals, we use we use embryonic stem cells, we use embryonic stem cells which are having the capability to differentiate into any cell type. So what we do normally, if I say, when we want to directly introduce our gene into the animal cells, in case of animal, uh, we actually we take out the blastocyst stage. You know the blastocyst stage. Blastocyst stage is the stage of your embryo formation. Normally, the zygote formation occurs when the union of sperm and egg of animals of different sexes fuse to form a zygote, and that zygote further divide to form multi-cell stages. Blastocyst stage is the 14th stage actually, where inside the blastocyst there are certain cells which is found inside the blastocyst stage of your embryo, and that cells which are found inside the blastocyst is called embryonic stem cells. Now these embryonic stem cells can differentiate and give rise to different cells. So what we do actually, we take out those embryonic stem cells, not some of them. We culture that embryonic stem cells on the laboratory, and we try to introduce our desirable gene. We will try to introduce our desirable gene onto those onto those uh, embryonic stem cells, and that embryonic stem cells are further cultures and check that which of the embryonic stem cells are transformed, or you can say which of the embryonic stem cells have our gene inserted. Then those transformed cells are again replanted into the blastocyst stage of the embryo, and that blastocyst is then implanted to a female, okay, to a female, to a female animal, okay, maybe to a third party. Third party means the blastocyst which was taken from the female animal, pregnant female animal. That same female animal cannot be may not be used. You may use a third female animal to implant that blastocyst in within their reproductive system, okay, known as foster mother, okay, or surrogate mother, you can also say surrogate surrogate mother, okay. And in this way we actually introduce our desirable gene into the plant cells. I hope you have understood what I have tried to say here. So, still, I am again repeating, in case of animal cell transformation, if we want to use animal cell as a host cell, where we want to insert our desirable DNA, the transgene, you can say, into their genome, what we do now, in unlike plant cell, and all the animal cells are not totipotent, okay. Animal cells are pluripotent or multipotent depending on from which type of cells tissues we are taking from. Most of the case we take the embryonic stem cells. Now embryonic stem cells are generated from the blastocyst stage. Now normally we know when a sperm and a nucleus, when a sperm, suppose this is a sperm, this is a egg cell, when they fuse they form what we call them as zygote, okay. Now this zygote undergoes several divisions, several period of divisions to form the blastocyst stage. Now this blastocyst stage of a female mice, of a pregnant female mice, is taken out from their reproductive organ, taken out from their body, and within this blastocyst stage it contains a inner cell mass. It contains a inner cell mass of cells. That cells are called as embryonic stem cells. Okay, so this pink one are your embryonic stem cells. These embryonic stem cells are taken out first we take out the blastocyst stage of that female, or we can if we use a instrument called high teflon catheter, or you can say catheter tube. If we take out with the help of that high teflon catheter, and we if we isolate those embryonic stem cells and culture them in suitable medium within the laboratory. Now what we do the direct method of gene transformation to introduce our desirable DNA into those embryonic stem cells, and then we will check for we will screen them to check that which of the embryonic stem cells has been transformed, and after that we again reimplant that embryonic stem cells to the blastocyst stage of the embryo, and or embryo of a foster mother or third party female, or directly to that same blastocyst of that of the pregnant female, and that blastocyst will eventually will further fertilize, it will further grow, divide and develop into transgenic animals. Then we will screen those animals that which of the animals have that desirable phenotype, have that gene properly inserted, have been properly expressed. So I hope I have twice I have repeated this one. I hope you have understood in case of transgenic animal. Now let us see the different gene transfer methods that is being used to transfer our gene into plant cells as well as in case of animal cells. So the first thing is your electroporation. This has been you have studied in your protoblast culture in your plant biotechnology syllabus. So normally electroporation means what? Electroporation basically involves use of high field strength of electrical impulses. So we apply a high field strength electric impulse for a short period of time to reversibly permeabilize the cell membrane for uptake of DNA. So simple thing, here we use a machine called electroporator. We use a machine called but to say a instrument, not say machine, electroporator. Now this electroporator okay, can be used precisely in a very sensitive way. A high field electric impulse can be generated within a short microseconds to temporarily permeabilize the plasma membrane, okay, of the protoplast, or in case of animal cell the plasma membrane of the animal cells, and we deliver our desirable DNA through the help of that pores. So it basically involves use of high field strength electrical impulses to reversibly permeabilize the cell membrane for uptake of the DNA. Now, this technique can be used to deliver the DNA into intact plant cells and protoplast as well. You can also deliver the DNA into animal cells also. Animal cells also. Okay. Now, how it is used? Let us see. Now, here, as this book, this chapter is notes is taken from the plant biotechnology, so they have just written plants only. So the plant material is incubated in a buffer solution. So what we do, the plant material, either the plant material may be a protoplast or maybe a intact plant cell having the cell wall. It is incubated in a buffer solution, and within that buffer solution it contains the desirable foreign DNA or target DNA, and then they are subjected to a high voltage electrical impulse. That means suddenly we increase the high voltage. Okay, electrical impulse. How much? It has not been mentioned in this note. Well, later on in these notes, I have introduced electroporation note right after some pages. I will see. We will see them after studying these notes. So we apply high voltage electrical impulse. A sudden voltage is applied for a few microseconds, and due to application of high voltage electrical impulse, it causes formation of temporary pores observed in the plasma membrane, and through the help of the temporary pores, DNA enters and get integrated into the host cell genome. Simple thing. Okay, but the main problem is the operation of that electroporator chamber. We have to careful has to be taken that only for a few microseconds we have to apply that voltage, otherwise the cell membrane will rupture. That's the problem. In early years, only protoplasts were used for gene transfer by electroporation. Well, what is protoplast? I have said to removal of the cell wall from the plant cell and called as protoplast. The remaining part where cell wall is removed, the remaining plant cell where on the cell wall has been removed, that plant cell is called protoplasts. So only protoplasts were previously used for genetic transfer by electroporation. But nowadays, you can use callus culture, we can use intact plant cell, and immature embryos can be used with suitable pre and post electroporation treatment. So nowadays it is saying that we can use intact plant cells, we can use callus culture. The callus culture can be used as a target plant cell for introduction of our DNA within them through the electroporation technique. And immature embryos can also be used with suitable pre and post electroporation treatment. Electroporation has been successfully used for the production of transgenic plants of many cereals like rice, wheat, and maize. So, with the help of this electroporation technique, we introduce our desirable gene into the cells of rice, wheat, and maize, and that gene has been properly been expressed in that cells, which is further generated into a whole new plant. So that's a good thing. Without using any vector, we are directly expressing the gene by just applying a high voltage electric impulse for a few microseconds to make a transient temporary pores in the plasma membrane, where our desirable DNA enters through these pores and integrated into the host plant cell's genome. This technique can is also applicable in case of animal cells also. Let us see the advantages of electroporation. This technique is very simple, very convenient. That means it is suitable for target cells and tissues and rapid besides being cost effective. Only one time investment occur, we have to use a electroporator machine instrument. The transformed cells are at the same physiological state after electroporation. It's not like that those cells which are transformed, they have to be maintained very sensitively. They remain in the same physiological state. Any no morphological changes are being observed after transformation. Efficiency of transformation can be improved by optimizing the electric field strength and addition of spermidine. It has been noted that you can increase the transformation frequency. You can increase the uptake of DNA through electroporation technique by optimizing the electric field strength, by again regulating the electric field strength, because it can vary from tissue to tissue. Okay, and addition of spermidine. Well, spermidine is using here as a catalyst to which allows the introduction of DNA to the host cells very quickly. Well, all the things have limitations also. Like the first limitation is under normal condition, the amount of DNA delivered into the plant cell is very low. So it has been mentioned that very low amount of DNA is inserted to the target plant cell. Well, it is a good also bad also, because if too much of DNA is introduced into the plant cell, there may be a transgene rearrangement can occur. The frequency of transgene rearrangement will occur, it will be very high. And secondly, too much introduction of the target DNA can leads to high copy number inside the target plant cell, and that can causes gene silencing, right? So too much of introduction of the DNA into a plant cell can should be avoided, otherwise gene silencing will occur, which will be of no use. Okay, because it will stop the expression of the gene, so what's the use of introduction of the gene then? Then next is efficiency of electroporation is highly variable depending on what type of plant material, or you can say animal material, is used, and the treatment condition. So the efficiency of this electroporation technique varies from one cell to another cell, varies from animal cell to plant cell, and it depends fully on uh, what type of plant material or what type of animal material are being used, and what are the treatment conditions that is being applied before this electroporation technique. And regeneration of plants is not a very easy job, particularly when protoplast is used. This is also has been mentioned when we are doing the protoplast culture, that after doing the protoplast fusion, there also we are allowing to make a hybrid plant cell, right, by fusion of the protoplast through electroporation. Here we are introducing the gene, single gene or more than gene, into the plant protoplast cell. So uh, in two of these cases, when we are introducing the gene, and after that if we want to regenerate that particular cell into plant cells through tissue culture technique, it is very difficult to regenerate into plants or plantlets. It is not a very easy job. So this was about the electroporation in case of plants. In case of animals also the same thing can be said here also. Same thing can be mentioned there also. Okay. Okay. So here we get a brief idea of electroporation. They have mentioned here that at what voltage is applied here. So this was actually specially taken from the animal biotechnology. Well, you when they say electroporation, you can write the electroporation with respect to plant cells and animal cells. If they say specifically that how electroporation can be achieved by using an animal cell, then you have to write animal cells. Or if they specifically mention you plant cells, then you have to mention plant cells. So that's not the problem. Okay, you have to regulate, you have to modify the lectures, you have to modify the notes a little bit, and nothing, the more or less the technique is same. Okay, so what is saying about the electroporation here in case of animal biotechnology? In this approach, transfection mixture containing cell and DNA is exposed for a brief period, few milliseconds, to a very high voltage gradient. That means we use a buffer solution. In the previous lecture of electroporation we have seen that we have used a buffer solution. That buffer solution consists of your DNA, the desirable DNA to be integrated into the target here animal cell, and the target cells. Here the target cells are the animal cells. Okay, animal cells. So they are being allowed to a very high voltage gradient, about 4000 to 8000 volt per centimeter, for a few millisecond. I have said microsecond. For a few millisecond, about 4000 to 8000 volt per centimeter, This high voltage gradient is applied to the mixture containing our target animal cells and the desirable DNA to be introduced into the animal cell. And this causes, due to this high voltage for few milliseconds, it induces transient pores. Transient means temporary pores in the cell membrane through which the DNA seems to enter the cell. Well, same thing has been mentioned here also in electroporation. Okay, so directly it is saying that in electroporation technique we use a mixture, the buffer mixture containing the target animal cells and DNA. If they want to and if you want to write plant cells, then instead of animal cells you write plant cells, and DNA for a brief period, and for a few milliseconds we are applying a high voltage gradient about 4000 to 8000 volt per centimeter for a few milliseconds is applied on that mixture where your animal cells and DNA has been placed, and this causes temporary or transient pores in the cell membrane of your target cell, through which the help of these pores the DNA seems to enter the cells. Treatment of cells with calcimide, or in that book, in that previous note it has written spermidine, right? Spermidine. So treatment of the cells with calcimide before they are electroporated increase the frequency of transfection. So if we use calcimide or spermidine, and if we apply calcimide or spermidine to the target cells just before electroporation, it has been mentioned that it increases the frequency of transfection. This is most likely due to the arrest of cells at metaphase and associated absence of nuclear envelope, or to an unusual permeability of the plasma membrane. Now, why it has been mentioned that when we apply calcimide to the target animal cells or plant cells, it increases the before electroporation, it increases the frequency of transfection, because this calcimide actually arrests the cell at metaphase. So there is no presence of nuclear envelope, because it arrests the calcimide arrests the cells at metaphase. That means at that metaphase time no nuclear envelope is present. So directly introduction of the DNA to the plasma membrane can be achieved without any disruption of the nuclear membrane, because there is no nuclear membrane present, because with the application of calcimide the cells are arrested at metaphase. Linearized linear linearized linear linearized DNA, that means linear DNA, it means to say linear DNA is far more efficient in transfection than circular supercoiled DNA. So they are preferring that linear DNA is preferable for introduction of your DNA into the target animal cells compared to the circular supercoiled DNA. Electroporation technique has a great applicability, and many animal cell types could not be transfected by other approaches were successfully transfected by this approach. So this electroporation is a very well approach for introduction of your DNA into the target animal cells. Okay. So up to this much you will study. Okay, not too much. This much is enough for your for the marks, to get the marks. Okay, let us see the next method of gene transfer. And the next method of gene transfer is your biolistic method. Okay, we will discuss this biolistic method now. Well, biolistic method is also called as microprojectile bombardment method, and it is the most effective method for gene transfer and creation of your transgenic plants as well as transgenic animals. So this method can be applied to both plant cells and animal cells. This method is versatile due to the fact that it can be successfully used for DNA transfer in mammalian cell and microorganisms also. So with the help of this particle bombardment method, this method is also called as gene gun, because here previously when they have developed this particle bombardment technique, they have used the gunpowder, right? That's why the name gene gun comes. So here forcefully we are allowing our desired DNA to be introduced to the target cells. It may be a plant cell or animal cell. Even microorganisms can be used as a host cell to introduce our desirable DNA with the help of this ballistic method. The microprojectile bombardment method was initially named as ballistic method by an inventor called Sanford. Sanford have invented this ballistic method in the year 1988. Now, how the ballistic method name? Biolistics is the combination of biological and ballistics. So here we use ballistics method, biological ballistic method, through the help of which we introduce our desirable target DNA into the plant cells or animal cells. There are also other names for this technique like particle gun, gene gun, bioblaster. Okay, now let us see the technique. Diagrammatic presentation has been given on these above notes. So what we do, let us see. We have to see the main principle of this technique and then the advantage or disadvantage. There are something called as micro carriers or micro projectiles found within this ballistic method. Microcarriers are made up of tungsten or gold particles which are coated with the DNA. So there are some small beads called as microcarriers. These microcarriers either um coated with gold or they are coated with tungsten. Sorry, not coated. These microcarriers are made up of gold or tungsten, and within that microcarriers it is coated with your DNA. So DNA is coated on these microcarriers. Okay, now these microcarriers are carried by macrocarriers. These microcarriers are carried by macrocarriers. So macrocarriers are long plates where the microcarriers are um, placed within these macro carriers. Okay, so this one is a macro carrier, this is your micro carriers coated with your gold or coated with your DNA. The micro carriers are made up of gold or tungsten particles, and these micro carriers are coated with your desirable DNA. Next, these macro carriers now inserted into the um, apparatus. It is inserted into your it is inserted to your it is inserted to your particle bombardment apparatus or ballistic apparatus and then pushed downward by rupturing the disc. So how they are pushed downward? By a high force, and that force can be generated by using gunpowder or by using any other force, like for example different type of force can be applied here. Now the stopping plate does not permit the movement of the macrocarrier, while the microcarrier are propelled at a high speed into the target plant material or animal material. So by looking at a diagram you can able to imagine. So this is a diagram of look at the first figure here. So in this first figure you see a ruptured disc which has been placed right here. if I zoom it in, you see a microcarrier and a microcarrier and macrocarrier. Well, the macrocarrier is that black plate that you can see, and the purple one, this is the purple color actually. These are the microcarrier, and within this microcarrier, your desirable DNA has been coated. Your desirable DNA has been coated on this microcarrier. Okay, there is also a stopping plate. This stopping plate actually allows the macrocarrier to prevent further going down, whereas the microcarrier can pass through this stopping plate. As you can see that this stopping plate has small pores. They have small pores right here, and with the help of these pores, microcarriers can easily propel down, can easily goes downward. Okay, and here is your plant material or the animal cells where we want to introduce, okay, the DNA. So what happened? The ruptured disc, as you can see in this figure, the ruptured disc has been broken down. Why? Due to high force applied from upward, from towards downward, and this is done by either using gunpowder or by using any high force applied to this region. Okay, that's why the name gene gun occurs in this method, also called as gene gun. So this high force eventually ruptured the disc and then eventually allows the movement of the microcarriers with macrocarriers. Well, the macrocarrier gets stopped by this stopping plate. The stopping plate does not allow the macrocarrier to go further, while the microcarrier can pass through these pores of this stopping plate, which is coated with DNA, and thus you can see this microcarrier get inserted within the target plant cell or animal cell. So very easy diagram. Well, you have to draw the diagram. It is quite lengthy. This type, if this technique comes, uh, most of the case this technique is very much given because it is the most successful technique used by the private biotech companies for introducing your gene into the target plant cells and animal cells to make transgenic plants or animals. So here the DNA segments is released from the microcarrier, which enters to the plant cell and integrate within the genome. So I hope you have understood this one. So I hope you have understood this part, that how biologistic method is being done. Now, what type of plant material can be used for this technique? We can use primary explant, which is just taken just now from the mother plant, like your leaf, stem parts, internode regions, meristematic tissues can be employed for particle bombardment. Or we can also use proliferating embryonic tissues that can be bombarded in this culture through biologistic method and allowed to proliferate and regenerate, right? Now, in order to protect the plant tissues from getting damaged by this bombardment, as we are applying high force, the microcarriers are also moving at a high speed and integrating into your target cell. So it is all obviously it is rupturing the target cell. Now, in order to protect the plant tissues from getting damaged by this bombardment, culture has to be maintained on high osmotica media and subject to limited plasmolysis. So it has been clearly mentioned that if you want to uh, minimize the damage caused by particle bombardment caused by this biologistic method, the cultures are maintained on a high osmotica media or they are subjected to limited plasmolysis. Then only we can able to reduce the damage that caused by this particle bombardment. Okay, so it is saying that there are various success of this particle bombardment, and in many ways the bombardment particle bombardment can be improved, and there are various factors also which affect this particle bombardment, like for example the nature of microparticles. The micro projectiles that we are using for particle bombardment is very important. We use such particles, the microparticles are made from such metals or non-metals which are inert in nature. Inert means non-reactive. It should not interact with the cell membrane, or it should not interact with the plant cell or animal cell. So inert materials are used like tungsten, gold. Sometimes platinums can also be used in microprojectiles to carry your DNA. These particles will relatively higher mass, will have a better chance to move faster when bombard and penetrate the tissues. So the microparticles which are used here, where we have coated our DNA, okay, these microparticles should have a high molecular weight, right? That means high mass. Second thing is that it should be non-reactive, so that it does not interact, it does not react with the target plant cells or animal cells that we are using. That is the factor, first factor. That's why we use gold, tungsten or platinum. Second is, what is the nature of the tissues or cells where we are applying this technique. Target cells that are capable of undergoing division are suitable for this transformation. So we, the target cells which are used for this particle bombardment, those target cells should be undergoing division. Like for example, if you are using plant cell, we should use a meristematic tissues where rapidly they are proliferating, they are dividing to form new cells. Those cells can be employed, those tissues can be employed for this particle bombardment method. Then the embryonic stem cells, in case of animal cells, we can use them. Some more details has been given already. Amount of DNA. Now this is also very important. If too much amount of DNA is introduced, then gene silencing will occur. That DNA will undergo further rearrangement. That transgene rearrangement occurs. So transformation may be low when too little DNA is used. If we are using too little DNA, the efficiency of transformation through biologistic method become low. On the other hand, too much of DNA will result in high copy number and rearrangement of the transgenes. It also leads to silencing of the genes. It also leads to silencing of the genes. So this transformation frequency may be low if too little amount of DNA is used for this technique. Okay, and on the other hand, if you are using too much amount of DNA, then this gene silencing may occur, the rearrangement of the transgene occur due to the high copy number. So what to do? So therefore the quantity of the DNA used should be balanced. Okay, what amount of DNA will be using for transformation, that has to be checked by observing the previous transformation experiments conducted by the other researchers. Recently, some workers have started using the chemical aminosiloxane. So recently, scientists, researchers have started using this chemical called aminosiloxane to coat the microparticles with low quantities of DNA, adequate enough to achieve high efficiency of transformation. So this is the thing you should remember. Recently, some workers have started using this chemical, aminosiloxane. This chemical is allowed to coat on that microprojectile, coat on that microparticles with low amount of DNA. Why? To achieve high efficiency of transformation. That means even we are applying low amount of DNA, as we are using aminosiloxane, maybe they are causing high transformation rate. They are allowing each DNA to be introduced to the target plant cells or animal cells, whatever host cells we are, target cells we are using. Some environmental parameters are also present to do this biologistic method, like your the temperature, humidity, photoperiod. Photoperiod refers to the it depends on the animal cells, not plant cells, not animal cells, which that will influence the physiology of the plant material and consequently of the gene transfer. It is also observed that some explants after bombardment may reduce special regimes of light, humidity, and temperature. It has been observed that after your particle bombardment of target plant cell, there is a difference within their taking capability, their humidity, and temperature. The technology of particle bombardment has been improved in recent years, particularly with regard to the use of equipment. Nowadays, particle bombardment apparatus, namely PDS 1000 HC, is widely used by the private biotech companies these days to make a transform plant cell or transform animal cells. So this is the name of a local, this is the name of an instrument of particle bombardment uh, found in the market commercially, PDS 1000 slash HC. PDS 1000 slash HC. This type of gene gun or ballistic is commonly employed nowadays for particle bombardment. Well, some particle bombardment have advantage and disadvantage. First is different type species of plants can be used to develop into transgenic plant. You can also introduce our gene into the animal cells also with the help of this technique. Gene transfer can be efficiently done in these organized tissues, but the disadvantage is that high copy number high copy number may occur. Okay, if we are introducing too much of amount of DNA coated with the microparticle, okay, and then allowing them for particle bombardment due to introduction of too much amount of DNA to the target plant cell or animal cell, it result in instability of transgene expression. It may leads to gene silencing or rearrangement of your transgene. Okay, to overcome this problem, it has also been mentioned that some of the workers have started using this chemical called aminosiloxane. Aminosiloxane. This aminosiloxane is first used to coat the microparticles. Then we coat our desirable DNA, target DNA in a few quantities to achieve high efficiency of transformation. So it can be overcome. Second disadvantage is target tissue may often get damaged due to a lack of control of bombardment velocity. Now, the main thing is that at what velocity, at what speed we are doing this particle bombardment method. But because if we increase the speed for achieving transformation, then eventually it is damaging the tissues, and that damaged tissues to regenerate into plant or or to regenerate into a baby embryo, it's big different. It's difficult, actually, you can say. Sometimes undesirable chimeric plants may be regenerated. That means the gene may not be fully expressed into the target plant cells, and thus chimeric plants can be achieved. That means that gene is expressed in scatteredly, okay, not in full. They are not expressing in full tissues or cells. So this was all about the bialistic method. So our next method is your micro injection. Well, I have little bit overview discussed about micro injection. It's a very tedious technique, very laborious technique also, because experts are needed for this technique. Normal people cannot able to undergo micro injection because of failure in this process. Well, what is micro injection? Normally, micro injection is a direct physical method involving the mechanical insertion of your desirable DNA into the target cell. So, mechanically, we are allowing our desirable DNA to be introduced to the target cell. Now, that target cell may be your one from intact cell. That target cell may be protoplast. That target cell may be your callus, embryo, or meristem. Microinjection can also be done in animal cells also. We will see them after this lecture, after these notes. Microinjection is used for transfer of cellular organelles and also for manipulation of the chromosome. So with the help of micro injection, not only your DNA, not only your target DNA, but also the cellular organelles like mitochondria, like your ribosome, like your lysosome, like your, like other things as well, like for example other cellular organ peroxisomes, they can be introduced into your target cells, okay, to achieve transformation. Now, how this micro injection process is carried out? The technique of micro injection involves transfer of gene through the help of a micropipette. Well, the micropipette here that you are using is bit different from your laboratory that you have used. Here the micropipette is very very thin, about 0.5 to 10 micrometer tip will be used here. Then within this micropipette we have taken our desirable DNA, and the gene is introduced into the target cell with the help of this micropipette into the cytoplasm or nucleus of a plant cell or protoplast. While the gene transfer is done, recipient cells are kept immobilized in agarose embedding and held by a suction holding pipette. It means to say the cell, the target cell where we are trying to introduce our desirable gene, so that the cell does not get moved here and there. It has to keep immobilized. Immobilized means not moving, by culturing that cells in a semi-solid agar medium, or not or, and they are also held by a holding pipette, right? Let us see how it is done. So this is a simplified diagram of your micro injection, where we can see there is a injection pipette. This is a micro pipette actually. Within this micro pipette we have our desirable DNA that is showing here, and it is trying to introduce that DNA into the target plant cell or animal cell. Well, the cell is held by this holding pipette, with the help of oil suction, and the cells are placed in an agar medium, semi-solid agar medium, to immobilize the cell actually. Well, for this technique, patience is required. For this technique, experts are required, because there is a lot of failure to this technique. Okay. So again, I repeating, the technique of microinjection involves transfer of the genes through a micropipette. About zero point 0.5 to 10 micrometer tip of micropipette is used, which contains our desirable DNA into the cytoplasm. We are introducing that DNA into the cytoplasm or into the nucleus of our plant cell. While the gene transfer is done, then the recipient cells are kept immobilized in agarose embedding and held by a suction holding pipette. Now, as the process is complete, the transformed cell is then cultured and grown into a transgenic plant. In fact, transgenic tobacco and Brassica napus plant has been developed by this approach. So transgenic tobacco plant, then transgenic Brassica napus plant has been developed through this micro injection technique. The main limitation of this micro injection is that it is slow, it is expensive, it has to be performed by trained and skilled personnel people. Otherwise, you will not get successful results. Let us see the micro injection technique in case of animal cell. Let us see the micro injection technique in case of animal cell. Well, this is the micro injection technique in case of animal cell. Well, in case of animal cell, we prepare the micro injection technique, we construct the micro injection technique in a little bit different way. The process is same, process is almostly the same, uh, and how it is done, let us see. So here we see a female animal, they are subjected to super ovulation. That means with the help of a hormone called human chorionic gonadotrophin hormone by injecting to the animal injecting to the female animal. That female animal is subjected to super ovulation. That means it will now produce multiple ovules, okay, within their reproductive tract. And after super ovulation, they are subjected to mating with the male animal. The ova, which is the plural form of ovum, is harvested and taken out in order to do the micro injection technique. So here we can see, after mating, you see the male pronucleus. This is actually what sperm donates, and this is the female pronucleus, which is the main nucleus of the ovum. Main nucleus of the ovum. Now we are interested to introduce our desirable gene into this ovum, into this fertilized ovum. So with the help of micromanipulator technique, with the help of micromanipulator technique, that is, we use a micropipette which contain our desirable gene, it is introduced into the cell, it is introduced into this fertilized ovum. There is also a holding micropipette which holds the ovum in order to immobilize the ovum, and very precisely, in a precise manner, the DNA is going to be introduced into the cytoplasm. Or here in this figure it is showing that this DNA is introduced into the male pronucleus of the fertilized egg, and then after introduction of the gene within the male pronucleus here, then they are further transferred. That ovum is transferred to a surrogate mother. Surrogate mother are third party mother who actually receiving that ovum within their reproductive system, so that they able to fertilize this embryo containing our transgene inserted into a transgenic animal, into a baby transgenic animal. And how the surrogate mothers are prepared, the surrogate mothers are actually prepared themselves to become pregnant. And how they prepare to become pregnant? By mating them with vasectomized male. I think I have wrongly spelled the spelling. With vasectomized male. Wait for a minute. The surrogate mothers are being prepared by mating with vasectomized male. Vasectomized male. Vasectomized male means the male will not able to deliver their sperms into the into the reproductive system of female during mating. Their vas deferens has been cleaved. Their vas deferens has been cut off. Okay, the vas deferens is the place where it joins with the testes, where it delivers the sperms. So that vas deferens has been cut off from the male to make vasectomized male. You have studied vasectomy. Vasectomy you have studied in your class 12 during control of population in humans. So here also vasectomized male is used to mate with the surrogate mothers, to make that mothers uh, prepared for achieving pregnancy. But they are not achieving pregnancy, they become pseudo pregnant. That means their egg is not fertilized actually, and thus the transformed ovum, which contain our desirable gene properly inserted, it is introduced into the reproductive tract of your surrogate mothers on the placenta, so that surrogate mothers will finally will fertilize this. Further fertilization, further division of this ovum will occur, and that leads to growth of what it leads to the growth of your transgenic animals. Here we have said transgenic mice, that means we have used mice ovum here. Okay, so in this way your transgenic animals can be prepared through your through micro injection technique. But here we only use the ovum cells not the other cells, not the other cells, because our main interest of creating transgenic plants and animals is that so that it can able to express themselves successfully in the next generations also. And that's why, as we all know, that animals does not have the capability, each and every animal cells has not the capability to regenerate into a whole animal. So we use the gamete cells here for the transformation experiments. Okay, that's why we don't use the somatic cells of the animals, because they will not give rise to a whole animal. Okay, because they have not they don't have the property of totipotency. Okay, so that's why we try to use a pluripotent cell, or directly an embryo cell is used. Like here we use the ova, a fertilized egg is used, a fertilized embryo is used to insert our gene of interest within them, and to deliver that transformed embryo into a foster mother or surrogate mother, who finally uh, cause that ovum to divide and grow into a new baby transgenic animal. Okay, having that our desirable gene properly expressed. So this was about the microinjection. Just go through these notes what I have tried to say. Many things has been mentioned here, which are not necessarily, but it is beneficial for you to gain extra knowledge based on this. Okay, next we will study about, well, I think it is almostly 1 hour, so I think we should stop this lecture now. um, there is also another technique that was liposome mediated fusion. This is the liposome mediated transfer. Well, we should do this in the next class. So up to this much, I hope you have understood this lecture. Get ready for the next lecture tomorrow maybe. Okay, and if you have some doubts regarding these notes, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. So thank you.